Hello everyone and welcome to your Photoshop challenge. My name is Wade Acuff and I'm an artist, animator, and illustrator. And today we're making some custom designs, custom icons. Sorry, they are going to be custom designs. But mine are going to be kind of fantasy-based designs. You can make them whatever you'd like, but if you do open up the source file, you'll find that I have provided three options for us. Today we've got that we're going to work on this potion design. I'm thinking of this as like things we would want to take on an adventure with us. So I've given us a potion, a scroll, and I guess what every adventurer needs, a dice bag. I don't know. But those are your options. I highly encourage taking a moment and creating your own design. Do whatever you'd like. But in case you need some sketches, there you go. You've got it. The first thing I'm going to do is get rid of, just trash our prompt layer. We don't need it. I'm going to drag the potion layer up above, hide our examples. I'm going to bring the opacity down slightly on our potion layer. And then from there, I'm going to add a new layer, which we'll go ahead and call, you know what, let's call it bottle. And we're going to get to this in an interesting way, but I want to show you guys how to combine a pixel selection with a path selection. And we're going to start with the marquee tool. So if you press M on your keyboard and make sure that, or you can come up here and select the marquee tool. Make sure you're not on rectangle, but that you are on elliptical marquee tool. Try and find the center of this as best you can. And then if you press Shift and Alt or Option on the Mac, you can drag this selection out to about the size that we need. And then we have that on this bottle layer. I'm going to press Shift F5, and I'm just going to fill it with gray. It doesn't matter. We're just making sure we have the selection for later. I'm going to drag that below, not into the examples. I'm going to drag this below our potion so that we keep our sketch. And there I'm going to press the P for pen tool. And I'm going to make sure that everything's set. If you start to drag, click and drag out, you'll start to see handles on your pen tool. And we're just going to draw this. If you make another point, you'll see that it starts to continue to drag and make those handles. We don't really want that for this second point. We're going to make a selection without dragging, which will give us a sharp point, and then basically giving us a corner. And we can edit this later, and I'll show you that as well. And I'm using this just to show that sometimes these kind of awkward shapes might be better to go ahead and make a path for if you're going to use them multiple times. And I am definitely going to go back and edit this. So again, making another hard corner here. And then I'm going to complete this path. When you get the little circle, that is for completing your path. And now we have a closed path. If you press, when you're still in the pen tool, if you press Control or Command, you'll get the direct selection tool, this little white arrow. And if you select off it by accident, you can also press that to select, and then once these points are open, that means you can edit once they're not filled in. And I'm going to just kind of come in here and make a few tweaks. If you want to remove points, you can hover over and delete, and also when you're along the line of the path, you can add and drag out just like we were drawing with the pen tool. And you can also, let's see if I can drag this. Yeah, you can also break these tangents by holding Shift. Let's see, where are we? Yeah, holding Alt or Option, and you can break these tangents if you want to. I don't want to. I'm going to leave them like that. And then from there, we're going to come over to Window, Paths, and I tuck this into my Layers panel. You'll see some other paths that I think are in your source file. You can use them if you want. I prefer you delete them because you're going to make them all again anyway. But if you want to save the path we just made, you have to name it. I'm going to call this neck. for bottleneck. And now we're going to combine the path selection and a pixel selection to make our base. One couple of ways you can make a selection from a path. You can come down here to make selection from path, click that, and you have your little selection. If I undo and we're selected, if you press down, just like you can with any layer, if you hold Control or Command, you'll see and hover over the layer, or in this case the path, you'll see a little selection. So you can grab that, and then if you keep that selection, jump over back into our layers, come down to your bottle layer, and hold Control or Command on the Mac and Shift together. You'll see a little plus sign in that little selection, and then you can combine both your path selection and your pixel layer selection. And I'm just going to fill this with gray so that we just have this bottle selection if we need it for later. I tend to use selections like this in my own work just so I have a reference that I can quickly select instead of having to go back into the path tool. But that's a good point to say, what's up, chat? How's it going? If you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them in there. I am going to try and make sure I look over and catch those questions. If you want to watch us live, if you're watching this in the future, we're live every day. Come over to behance.net/Adobe Live. And you know what? We got a long way to go on our adventure, so let's keep rolling. Okay, so where are we in this adventure? Super easy. Make a new layer. Call this layer, what do we call this? Bottle color. Select just using this bottle selection to make my selection. Selecting back on the bottle color, I'm going to press Shift F5. This time I do want to select a color, this green, but I'm going to make it a little bit lighter. Click OK. That might be too light. We'll see. We can always adjust this because we're going to keep it on its own layer for that. And now we want to make our liquid layer. This one is probably the part where it gets a little more illustrator-y, like, you know, like it's a little bit of painting involved. But you can keep it super simple if you want. Before we can do any of that, though, we're going to keep that selection active, or if you've lost your selection, you can always select either the bottle color or the bottle. But on the liquid layer, come up to Select, Modify, Contract. And there I want to, this is again to taste. I want this bottle to have some thickness. So I'm going to click OK to about 40 pixels. And we can just paint in this. I'm in honor of our very own Voodoo Val. I'm going to pick a purple color and see what this looks like. This dark enough? Yeah, this might be dark enough. So keeping this simple, we can, if you don't want to do all the splashing that I intend to do, you can just call it a day, make a line here, call it a day, say that that's our potion. I'm going to go a little bit further with it, and I recommend you try this as well. I'm painting with a chalk brush. And I don't honestly remember where it came from, just to be completely honest with you guys. But I do know that Kyle T. Webster does make some really nice charcoal brushes that do they kind of have a similar feel to it. So those will work perfectly for this. And I'm just going to kind of follow what we have here. Maybe we'll make a few adjustments. I don't know. Let's see. And I'm painting with my. I do have a Wacom tablet, so I'm using a stylus to paint with. And I'm also pressing. You'll see the little tilde key up on the side. That's me erasing using the same brush. I know some of you don't have that option. But you can switch to the eraser brush or the eraser tool and do the same thing. So we kind of have a splash, but we don't have a surface to our liquid. Another way you can, or a way you can add that is if you have a brush with transfer on it, and I'll just jump up here to the brushes that we all have. if you choose this, I'm going to choose this hard round with a transfer on it. Again, this might be an issue if you're working with only a mouse and don't have pen pressure, but I did want to show that if you have this transfer, you can see that you get a little bit of opacity, almost like a gradient. If you turn that off, that goes away. But you can use this, because I'm using very light pressure and I'm trying to make it look like there is a layer atop to this surface, so that we're kind of seeing down on it. But I recommend using some kind of texture brush. It's going to give you a little bit more of a painterly look. So I'm going to switch back to that for me. And if you see me press, if you see the eyedropper tool come up, when I'm painting, I have my thumb on my Alt or Option so that I can always select the color that I'd like. You can hide the selection too by hitting Control H so we don't have to see it. But this way I can toggle select. If I want to go back into the main purple, I can do that. But that's a good way to kind of, so I have my Alt there, and I have the my middle finger on the tilde key so that I can switch to the eraser. That's just how I work. I think we're going to leave this like this. This will be fine. We've got a little bit of splash. Maybe we'll add a splash in the back. I don't know. It's really to taste at this point. But we want to keep moving on because we want to add some depth to this. And I'm going to hide our brushes from here. We want to get some depth to this, and I'm going to select, we're still selected. If I press Control H, you'll still see we have our marquee selection up. We don't want that anymore. Control D, we're going to select our bottle so that we can go back to the main shape. And from there, I'm going to add a new layer over our liquid layer and call this, what do we call this? What will we call this? Bottle, let's see. We'll just name it depth. I don't know. And from there, I want to select the gradient tool, press G on your keyboard. Now make sure that sometimes this might be set to your paint bucket tool, so just make sure it is set to gradient. I'm going to come up here and grab from our basics, our gradient. And I want to show you how to kind of make the gradient we want, because we're going to use a radial gradient for this. I want, on these top nodes, I want to set this left one to 0, this right one to 100, and that is changing the opacity of your gradient. And I want to make this right gradient black, because we're going to use this as a multiply layer. And I'm just gonna, I have the wrong gradient. So if you come up here and select radial gradient, and then just kind of do this to taste, that's it's okay. It's a little bit too much, but that might work. It might be a little dark. It's okay. Let's go to multiply, and then we can take the opacity down a little bit if we want. And also this neck gets really dark. So I'm going to add a mask to this so that we can now, you know what, let's make sure we're not selected. Then we'll add a mask to this. And then from there, I do want to select this soft round brush. It's just a basic brush, because we want to keep the softness for this area. And in our mask, if you paint with black, it starts to remove part of that mask. And I just want to leave a little bit of a hint here that we have some lighting going on. And then we have a little bit of depth for our bottle. From there, let's see. I want to jump to how we're going to add a little bit of highlights to this. In order to add highlights or to make something, you know, seem we're not going for believable, but we want things to make sense. So I'm going to just create a layer and draw some, I'm going to call this, I don't know, lighting. It's just, this is a notes layer essentially. I'm going to select my chalk brush, so I can show you guys this real quick. And what I like to do, let's see, if I'm ever thinking about how I want something lit and I'm not quite sure, or if I'm going to lose track of how I want the lighting to look, I will come in here and draw, let's see if I can make our brush work. There we go. I will come in here and draw some cones to show where our light is coming from. So I anticipate this light hitting somewhere in here with this direction, so that's kind of where I want my light to hit. I am also going to add a rim light to this, and this one gets a little tricky, but I also like to do, if I think I'm going to lose track of it, I do like to have the cones kind of show me where things are coming from. So we'll have a little bit of rim light from behind, and it will hit these areas. Let's see, maybe it will hit like here, and it'll hit here. But that's just like a rough map of how I think about how I want my lighting to affect whatever it is I'm working on. And in this case, you know, it's an icon. You've got a little bit more wiggle room. But with those notes in mind, we can turn that off. Just wanted to make sure that, you know, we've thought about where our highlights are going to go. Now we can add a highlight layer. Maybe we should double click to name it. Highlight, and then I'm going to immediately turn this to a color dodge, and I'm going to select a super saturated orange red almost, and I may have to adjust this, but before I start painting, I want to select the color again holding Control or Command and pressing on the layer. Make sure you have the little selection come up. Then you can get back to your brush, which for some reason doesn't want to work. There we go. And so now on the color dodge layer, I'm just going to softly start adding in some light. And this is really where the image starts to take shape. And I'm using this texture, and I'm being very light with it, very light. And I'm just adding in a little bit of this highlight. And I'm going to hide, just so we can see this a little better, I'm going to hide our potion. I'm going to Control H to hide our selection. It's still selected. See, I can still paint without going off the edges. And so I'm just going to keep messing around with this. I think this little edge where the bottle would hit, you know, the shape of the base of the bottle might have a little reflection. A little, not reflection, but a little bit of light catching, and then that's fine for now. Maybe we can spice it up just a little bit, just a little brighter. And I'm really just making this kind of painterly at this point. Really just concerned with keeping the edge clean. Honestly, that's it. And for my rim light, which we'll turn this back on, we want it kind of coming from behind and up. And all this is going to do is give us a little bit of edge. But I want to select a blue, super saturated blue, and again, this is all to taste, and we're going to just pretend like this is creeping around this edge a little bit. And if it's coming from below, it's going to catch a little bit of here, a little bit of this part of the bottle, maybe even splash down some of this bounce light onto this neck. And I'm going to clean this up by holding the tilde key and kind of just come in here. Maybe we make it a little far-reaching. Maybe there's a little bit of something happening in there. So from there, we're getting real close. We're missing a couple of things. We're missing our cork, which we can make a little cork layer. And again, we can always come back here and adjust things. Like, I'm going to come back to this mask right now, and I'm going to select, I believe that's what I want to select, the white. Yeah, I want to give us a little place for that cork to live. So I'm going to come in here and adjust the mask with a white on the brush so that we have a little bit of an opening. Then we can come back to the cork. I'm going to select P to give us our pen tool, and I'm going to make, turn on our, you can see we're off a little bit, that's fine, but I'm going to turn on the sketch layer anyway, and then use the pen tool to give us a, draw us out a little cork. And I probably am going to adjust this to match our drawing a little bit. I'm going to move all of this up just slightly. And honestly, sometimes the kind of off or more wonky this looks might be better. Sometimes it just adds character, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Okay, so from there, press enter. And then what I did there, I press enter. Now I have to go to the paths tool to find our working path. I'm going to name it cork so we don't lose it. And then I can make this a selection like we did earlier, Control or Command on the Mac, and just hover over and select. And then from there, I'm just going to paint. I'm going to grab a kind of a tan-ish orange color and just make a little cork. Turn our sketch back off so we can see it a little better. Hide our selection, Control H will do that. And then I'm going to think about our lighting again. We've got lighting from a little bit from the front, but I think I want to make it look like this has a little bit of a shadow. So I'm selecting a darker color. My cat has decided to, if you hear a meowing in the background, Meeps she is on her game right now, so apologize. I wondered when this might happen, so please bear with me. We're almost there. So we have a little cork. Maybe we even give it a little more shadow at the bottom here. There we go. And if you have a texture brush, since it's selected, you can make this texture brush really large and just kind of dapple it, and it will apply a little bit of texture. It depends on what your brush is, of course, but that's that's always an option to kind of adjust and play with that. Oh, you can hear her? Yeah, she gets loud. I'm surprised she has stopped at this point, because normally that's a non-stop, ongoing thing once she gets started. And then the last thing we want to do with this is sometimes potentially like the magic part of it. We've kind of created some magic in this because of the glowy light, but we're going to call this the shine layer, and I'm going to select something that's up here but not quite white, just in case we need to ever push all the way into white. And I'm going to think, oh, here she is. She's under the door now. So, hello? Hello? There she goes. So I'm going to turn our lighting layer back on, and we can see where we're going. Our path is still set. I want to maybe add a highlight here. Let me make sure my brush is selected. Not sure why. Oh, wait, here we go. No. Not sure why this is not drawing now. Oh, maybe, yeah, we're selected on the cork. You have to remember your selections when you hide them. Okay, so there's a little bit of shine there, probably a little bit here, a little bit on this lip. Maybe something right here. Anyway, all of this again is to flavor. And from there we have our potion. There's a couple things you could do if you wanted to come in here and add bubbles. And I'll turn all of this off just in case you want to see this as I do it. If you selected the liquid layer, this is all for flavor. This is all bonus points. You can come in here and add. I just selected this top purple color. It's actually like a light blue, as you can see in the color. Add a couple of bubbles. Just make a few round shapes. Select this green. Add a highlight at the top, a tinier highlight at the bottom, highlight at the top, smaller highlight at the bottom, highlight at the top, smaller at the bottom. That's because the highlight on the top is reflecting through to the bottom of the bubble, so that you get a little double highlight. And then if we turn everything back on, minus our lighting notes, there you go. You've got a health potion you can take on your travels, and I hope you guys enjoy this. Hope you learned something about mixing selections from paths and pixel layers. If you want to join us on these adventures, join us over on our Discord at bit.ly/psdiscord. There's tons of great stuff already happening over there. I spent a good part of the weekend looking through those, commenting. They're all amazing. Can't wait to see what you guys do with these. Again, I encourage you to make your own. You don't have to follow this stuff. I would love to see some original designs. But yeah, there's lots of great stuff coming up here on Adobe Live. Thanks everybody, and we'll see you guys soon. Have a good one. Bye.